In the quiet town of Ashbourne, Virginia, there stands a library older than the nation itself. Its red brick walls lean with age, its roof sagging under centuries of storms. Most townsfolk pass by without a second glance, unaware that beneath its foundation rests a secret sealed away for more than 200 years. The story begins in 1794, when the land was still wild and dangerous. The building wasn't a library, then it was a courthouse, a place where justice was supposed to shine like a lantern in the dark. But justice, in Ashbourne, was traded for silence. During the winter of that year, a prominent family, the Blackwells, stood, accused of witchcraft. The townspeople whispered that their daughters spoke with voices not their own, that animals died when they walked past, and that shadows lingered too long in their presence. But unlike the Salem trials, this was not hysteria, it was commerce. Every landowner who stood against the Blackwells conveniently vanished, their property transferred through suspicious deeds into new hands. One night, in December 1794, the entire Blackwell family vanished. No trial, no verdict, just gone. Official records marked them as relocated. But those who worked in the courthouse heard the truth. The Blackwells never left Ashbourne. They were buried alive beneath the very foundation stones, sealed away as a warning to anyone who might challenge the town's ruling elite. For centuries, the truth slept beneath wood and stone, until 1923. When workers expanding the courthouse into a public library uncovered something they were never meant to find. In the crawlspace, beneath the floorboards, they found bones, small bones, children's bones lined neatly against the wall, as though placed in ritual. Among them were iron shackles fused into the brickwork, and a Bible with every mention of salvation meticulously cut out. The workers sealed the space immediately and swore to silence. But silence, like time, has limits. Patrons of the library began to notice strange things. Books flying from shelves without cause. A woman in black seen drifting between the stacks, her face hidden by a veil. Children reported hearing voices calling their names from beneath the floor. The most disturbing account came from 1978, when a night janitor refused to return to work. He claimed that while sweeping the basement, he heard nails clawing against the stone beneath him, like something trying to dig its way out. When the town archivist confronted him, he whispered only one phrase before quitting forever: "They're still down there, waiting." Local historians dismissed these tales as superstition. But one journal entry discovered in 2015 shattered that illusion. Hidden in the archives was a leather-bound diary belonging to Magistrate Henry Wycliffe, the very judge who condemned the Blackwells. His words were not of justice, but of fear. If their blood seals the foundation, perhaps their curse will never rise against us. But I hear them at night. Their whispers slip through the cracks. I pray the stones hold. Even now, the Ashbourne Library stands as a pillar of education. Children study, adults read, families gather, but beneath the quiet rustle of pages, there is another sound of faint scratching, as if history itself refuses to stay buried. So the next time you enter an old building, take a moment to listen. Place your ear to the walls, to the floor, because some secrets, though buried in time, are never truly silent. The story of the Ashbourne Library should have ended with the judge's diary. But it didn't. In 2019, a graduate student named Eleanor Price arrived in Ashbourne. Her thesis was simple: to document forgotten Virginia courthouses of the 18th century. But Eleanor was the kind of researcher who didn't stop at surface history. She liked to dig. She requested permission to view the library's restricted archives, tucked away in a damp basement room few had entered in decades. The archivist, an elderly woman with clouded eyes, refused at first. "Some records are sealed," she whispered. "Not for scholars. Not for anyone." But Eleanor persisted. She was young, clever, persuasive. Finally, the archivist relented, handing her a single brass key. "Do not stay after dark," the woman warned. Eleanor laughed, but she didn't stop. That evening, as thunder rolled across the horizon, Eleanor sat alone in the basement, surrounded by dust and silence. The shelves groaned with parchment and crumbling ledgers, each page brittle with age. Hours passed as she read deeds, court transcripts, and letters that spoke vaguely of the Blackwells, but never directly. It was as though the family had been erased, deliberately scrubbed from time. Then, at midnight, she found it. A bundle of papers bound with black ribbon, tucked inside a hollowed-out law book. The pages were stained with something dark, something that had soaked into the fibers long ago. Inside were testimonies never meant for the public eye. Secret depositions of townsfolk forced to swear loyalty to Judge Wycliffe. A woman confessed. She saw the Blackwell daughters tied in chains beneath the courthouse. A man described hearing their screams as workers sealed the foundation with mortar. Another letter and sign was more chilling still. They did not die quickly. Their voices carried through the stone for 7 nights. We heard them praying, cursing, begging. But on the 8th night, silence. Eleanor's hands trembled. She could not look away, and then she heard it, from beneath the stone floor, faint but clear scratching, like nails raking against rock. Her breath caught in her throat. At first she thought it was a rat, but then came the whisper, not a sound, a word, Eleanor. She froze, her name, spoken in a voice brittle with centuries of dust. She slammed the book shut, her heart pounding, and fled the basement. The door slammed behind her, though no wind had stirred. The archivist was waiting, at the top of the stairs. She shook her head slowly. "You shouldn't have opened it," she murmured. "Once you read their words, they remember your name." Eleanor didn't sleep that night, nor the nights after. Every time she closed her eyes, she dreamed of brick walls pressing in on her, of soil filling her mouth, of voices whispering in her ears. Within weeks, she left Ashbourne, abandoning her thesis entirely. But the story doesn't end with Eleanor either. In 2021, renovations began to stabilize the sagging library walls. Construction crews worked late into the night, cutting into the foundation. That's when they found it, a hollow chamber, sealed tight with stone and lime. Inside were fragments of bone, dozens of them, some broken, some tiny, belonging to children no older than 10, and carved into the walls, in jagged letters, a single phrase repeated over and over: "We are still here." The chamber was resealed, without report. Officials claimed the discovery was animal remains, but the workers knew better. Several refused to return. One left behind a note in his locker that read, "At first, they scratched, now they whisper. By next week, I fear they'll be walking." Eleanor Price tried to leave Ashbourne. She packed her belongings, boarded a bus, and swore to herself she would never return. But some places do not let their witnesses go so easily. 3 days into her return to Washington, she received a package at her apartment door. No postage, no name. Inside was the black-ribboned bundle of papers, the same one she had abandoned in the library basement. She burned it in her sink that night, watching the pages curl into ash. But when she returned to her desk, the bundle was sitting there again and marked, untouched by flame. And this time, one page was open. A new line had been added, written in a hand that wasn't hers. "We are still waiting, Eleanor." From that night on, she stopped sleeping. Every time she closed her eyes, she awoke gasping, the taste of soil in her throat, her nails cracked and bloody, as if she'd been clawing at stone. Her colleagues grew concerned. Some whispered she was losing her mind. But Eleanor wasn't insane. She was haunted, determined to put an end to it. She returned to Ashbourne in the winter of 2022. Snow had buried the town, and the library loomed in silence, its windows black with frost. The archivist was gonna retire, they said. In her place was a new caretaker, a middle-aged man who smiled too easily and never let her out of his sight. That night, Eleanor broke in, with a lantern in one hand and a crowbar in the other. She pried open the basement door and descended into the dark. The air was damp, heavy, and thick with mildew. The scratching had grown louder since her last visit. Now it was not just one set of nails, but dozens. Dozens of hands clawing beneath her feet. She followed the sound to the wall, where the chamber had been resealed. Her lantern light revealed something chilling. Fresh mortar had cracked. Thin lines spidered across the bricks, as though something inside was pushing to get out. Her breath clouded in the freezing air. She lifted the crowbar, struck once, twice. The wall crumbled. The chamber yawned open like a mouth. Inside, the bones were no longer still. They shifted, slowly, purposefully, as if stirred by her presence. And then the voices rose, not whispers now, but a chorus, shrieking, crying, chanting, "We are still here, we are still here, we are still here." Eleanor stumbled back, her lantern crashing to the floor, flames sputtering out. Darkness swallowed her, and in that blackness, cold hands seized her arms. No one saw Eleanor Price again. Her apartment in Washington was left untouched, her belongings gathering dust. The police report listed her disappearance as unsolved, but locals in Ashbourne tell another story. They say that when the library is quiet, after midnight, a new voice joins the whispers. A young woman, calling for help, and sometimes she calls by name.